Our two boys are 9 and 4, and one of their favorite things to do last fall was get their scooters, throw them in the car, drive over to the new skate park in our area of town, and then zip around for hours. And I remember one of the very first times we get to the skate park and they start zipping around, and I find a spot under the shade, start to settle in to take in all their joy. And as I'm doing that, this feeling starts to well up within me. And it's a familiar one. It's a feeling I get on those rare occasions when that song, Do the Locomotion, comes across the radio. It's the feeling I get when I smell pasta cooked just like I remember my mom cooking it in the kitchen of my childhood. It is the feeling I definitely get every time I see a ping pong table. And I think of my childhood best friend, Eric, and the absolutely epic matches we had year after year in our basement, his basement. The feeling that was rising up within me as I was watching my boys on those scooters was nostalgia. I was being invited to remember some of my good old days. And as I was remembering some of my good old days, nostalgia whispered into my ear, Bobby, why don't you go out there with your boys? No, not like they're doing it with the scooters back and forth. No. You, Bobby, go out there like you did it in the prime of your kid days. A few minutes later, I was able to convince my boys to take a brief break from the skate park, get back in the car. We drove over to our local Academy Sports, and for the first time in 30 years, I bought rollerblades. I wore rollerblades 9, 10, 11, 12, all the time, often next to my childhood best friend, Eric. I'd call up his family's landline, 761-3776. Still know the number. He'd be out the front door and down a few blocks. Next thing you know, we're in our baggy windbreaker, 90s billowy thing, right? And we were just sailing the suburbs. Oh, it was so fun. And so all these memories are flooding back as we park into the skate park area again. The boys go running. They're doing their things. I sit on a bench and I start to put on my new rollerblades. And immediately I recognize two things. One, I really had forgotten just how fast rollerblade wheels roll. Like seriously, it's like someone has put Crisco on these things. They're legit slippery. And the other thing I realize as I stand up into the rollerblades is that I have not asked a lot of these muscles to do anything like this in a very long time. And so wisely, I perceive I can't actually go into the skate park. Like half of it's full of kids zipping around. The other half is full of adults. Some of them are parents doing tricks and turns and all these things. No, what I notice is that there is a very quiet, perfectly flat sidewalk on the periphery of the skate park. Nobody's there. I will rollerblade there. And I do. Very slowly, and it's all fine. Until I decide I want to stop just to check how the boys are doing. And so I start to slow down from already very slow on perfectly flat surface. And as I'm doing that, one of my rollerblades slips from underneath me. And I feel myself start to fall off to the left, but I catch myself and then start to overextend. And so I pull my body weight back the other way, and those Crisco blades on the other side slip from underneath me. Now I'm airborne, and then I quickly crash with all of my body weight into the wrist, elbow, my whole right arm, this searing electric pain right up it. But I will tell you, pride is a strange thing. I used to rollerblade a lot. I'd still like to think I'm at least somewhat athletic. And I did not want to be the one parent who brings their kids to the skate park full of a number of parents who are out there like totally doing the rollerblade, roller skate, skateboard thing. And I can't even stay upright on the perfectly flat sidewalk where nobody else is. So in moments, I am back up, look around. Anybody notice? I'm good. About a minute into my continued rollerblading, I realized, This is going to hurt in the morning. 2 minutes in, as I'm losing the ability to move my arm and I can see visible swelling, I'm like, we've got to get out of here. And so I call to my boys, and they could tell I'm calling them from a different place within. And they actually come. And we get in the car, at which point I realize I can't drive the car. I don't have the grip strength to do the gear selector on my right hand. So I drive home with the left hand. And we get there, and I drop the boys off at our house with my wife, and I'm just like, I got to get to urgent care and figure this thing out. Get to urgent care. They take me to the x-rays, and they have incredibly difficult time just finding out how to get my arm on there because it was excruciating, just the pain of trying to let them take those photos. But they get a couple passable photos and then send me over to this other room and come back a couple minutes later and say, well, broken arm. We're going to wrap you up, put you in a sling, and a couple nurses get right to just that. And as they're doing it, the doctor walks in for the first time. He kind of peeks his head in. He goes, front desk said skateboard accident, room 2. I just assumed you'd be a teenager. He then goes on to tell me that this is a broken arm. You're going to have a hard cast put on in 2 days, and it's going to be like that for 6 weeks, and that's life. And as he's telling all of this, I just feel this frustration fall over my whole being. And honestly, also just sadness. Like, why can't I go out and do the thing I used to love and do it again? I wasn't looking for a meal of nostalgia, but a nice little taste. That didn't end with this. As I'm lamenting all this, I see in my phone, my inbox, that urgent care has emailed the x-rays to me, so I have them. So I forward them to my childhood best friend, Eric. He's an orthopedic surgeon up east. I'd be curious what he sees, what he thinks, whatever. He replies pretty quickly, hey, let's talk tonight. So I get home, and later that night, I call him, and he says, hey, all things considered, good news. That's a clean break. And he goes on to tell me, he's like, you don't let anybody put a hard cast on you. And he explains that if you have a hard cast that long with no motion, you lose so much flexibility, so much muscle, it's very hard actually to ever regain it. He says, don't do that. And he gives me some tips and strengthening ideas on letting it be and heal naturally over those 6 weeks. And this is incredible news. And it proves right. My right arm healed without a cast last fall. But after this great advice, and oh man, thank you, conversation shifts for another 30 or 40 minutes, talking about life and family and kids. And one of those easy conversations where I think if someone was overhearing it would have no idea that we live 1,700 miles apart and see each other maybe once every 2 or 3 years. For me, Eric is one of those rare friendships that no matter when we pick the conversation back up, it just rolls along. Crisco friendship. I wanted so badly to experience some of the best of my yesterday. And as I hung up the phone with Eric that night, it dawned on me, it didn't require the purchase of rollerblades to get that. It certainly did not require the experience of a broken arm to get that. The best of my yesterday was, as always, just a phone call away.